huge green splotches all over the brick wall. We tried to get the green dye off the wall, but that stuff was like permanent ink. I knew we couldn't leave giant green stains all over the school, so I tried to figure out what to do next. But right at that moment, someone yelled at us from the street. "Hey, what are you kids doing?" Me and Rowley panicked and took off. We ran across the parking lot and through the shortcut in the woods, then kept running until we were sure we'd lost whoever was back there. I wish we didn't run, because if we had just stayed and explained ourselves, it probably would have been fine. I don't know if the person who called out was a parent or a police officer or what, but I just hope they didn't recognize us, because if they did, we could be in some serious trouble.
Why would you park on the side?
Tuesday. When I woke up this morning, I thought maybe everything that happened last night was just a bad dream. But then I saw the newspaper on the kitchen table. The Daily Herald. Vandals deface middle school. Vandals struck last night under cover of darkness and rain, leaving large, bright green stains on the front wall of the town middle school. See accompanying police sketches of suspects. The meaning of the green blobs is still unknown, but police suspect it could be gang-related. Graffiti artists have caused a lot of property damage in the past 6 months, said Sergeant Peters of the town police force. See Vandals, Section A2. So now I'm basically a criminal. Believe it or not, this isn't the first time I've been falsely accused of a crime. When I was in the Boy Scouts, I was trying to earn my service project merit badge, and I had to do some kind of good deed. Mom said I should go over to Leisure Towers and see if there were any elderly people who needed help carrying groceries or something like that. And she told Roderick he had to give me a ride. When we got to the parking lot of Leisure Towers, there was a lady walking around who looked like she was lost. We asked the lady if she needed any help, and she said she was just walking to the supermarket on the other side of the apartment building. But I knew the nearest supermarket was almost 5 miles away in the opposite direction, so we said we'd give her a ride. The only condition was that she had to ride in the back, because I had already called shotgun. We dropped the woman off at the supermarket, and then we went home. When we walked in the door, I was pretty excited to tell Mom about my good deed. I told her about the lady and how we gave her a ride to the supermarket a few miles from Leisure Towers and saved her a lot of walking. But Mom said there was a brand new supermarket a block away from Leisure Towers, and the woman had probably been heading there. So that meant we dropped her off 5 miles from where she was trying to go. And now she didn't have a way to get home. Mom said we had to get back in the van and see if we could find the lady. So we went to the supermarket where we dropped her off. But a cashier told us she'd already finished her shopping and left. We eventually found the lady walking along the highway with her groceries. We tried to offer her a ride back to Leisure Towers, but this time she wouldn't get in the van. I guess she must have called the local TV station to report us once she got home, because that night we were on the news. The newscasters had a field day. Teens are kidnapping residents of Leisure Towers. Could your grandmother be next?
I don't understand why they closed the roads. Why don't they just...
This school vandalism thing seems a lot more serious, though. Luckily, the eyewitness sketches in the paper didn't really look like me and Rowley, so I thought maybe we'd be okay. But when I got to school, all anyone wanted to talk about was who was behind the green blobs. The school had a general assembly in third period, and the topic was the so-called graffiti on the front of the school. Vice Principal Roy said someone had spray painted the front wall, and he was sure the perpetrators were students at our school. He said someone in the auditorium knew who was responsible, and that it was terrible to live with a guilty conscience. Then he said he was going to put a locked box in the cafeteria to make it easy for someone to leave an anonymous tip. At lunch, I could tell Rowley was really freaking out. So I reminded him that this vandalism thing was a lot of baloney, and we didn't really do anything wrong. But Rowley said if he got a criminal record, he wouldn't be able to get into college or get a job, and that his whole future would be ruined. It took a while, but eventually I convinced him to just stay cool and wait for the whole thing to blow over. After lunch, the police came to the school, and Vice Principal Roy started calling kids down to the front office one by one. At first, I was worried someone had identified us, but then I realized Vice Principal Roy was only calling the names of the worst troublemakers. That's when I knew they didn't have any real evidence, and I started to relax. At recess, a kid named Mark Ramone told us what happened when he went in for questioning. The police had a machine that they said was a lie detector, and they claimed it was foolproof, so there was no point in fitting. Mark said it was pretty obvious the lie detector was really just a photocopier. But whenever Mark said something the police didn't like, Sergeant Peters hit the copy button, and out came a piece of paper that read, "He's lying." I guess the police eventually gave up, because after lunch, Vice Principal Roy stopped calling kids down to the front office. So I finally feel like we're off the hook. Wednesday. When I got to school today, I thought the green dye incident was totally behind me. So I was pretty surprised when I heard my name on the loudspeaker during morning announcements. "Greg Heffley, report to Vice Principal Roy's office immediately." I walked into Vice Principal Roy's office, and he told me to take a seat. He said he knew I was one of the culprits responsible for the green blobs, and asked me if I had anything to say for myself. I looked around the room for the lie detector machine, but I didn't see it, and I decided my best move was to just keep quiet, or maybe ask for a lawyer. Then Vice Principal Roy pulled a piece of paper out of the anonymous tip box and showed it to me. It said, "Me and Greg Heffley vandalized the school." All of a sudden, everything made sense. Rowley confessed, but he kept himself anonymous. I don't know if Rowley did it that way on purpose, or if he's just a total doofus, but I'm guessing it's door number 2. I didn't see any reason to play dumb at that point, so I told Vice Principal Roy the whole story. I told him about the signs and how the rain made the poster board bleed and how we panicked and ran. Vice Principal Roy thought about it for a while, and then he told me I should have come clean earlier. He said he was going to have to give me a punishment to make sure I learned my lesson, and said that after school I had to scrub the green dye off the wall with bleach. Then he gave me a choice. He said I could name my co-conspirator, or I could just take the punishment myself. Let me tell you, that was not an easy one. I really wanted to stick it to Rowley for writing my name on that piece of paper, but I also didn't see the point in both of us getting in trouble for something that I basically dragged him into. So I decided this time around, I'd just take one for the team. And if Rowley gets into a good college or gets some dream job later on, I hope he remembers to thank me. Thursday. It took me 2 hours to scrub the green dye off the wall yesterday, and it was hard work. I tried to get Vice Principal Roy to get me a few steel wool pads so we could speed things along, but he told me I needed to stick with the bleach. I finally got home around 5 p.m., and there was a note on the front door. When I read it, I almost passed out. It was from the town police department. "We came by, but no one was home. We will come back later. Sergeant Peters." I couldn't believe Vice Principal Roy gave me up to the police. I thought we were going to keep this between us, and that once I served my punishment, it was over and done with. All I know is, I can't go to jail. This year, they took our class on a scared straight field trip to the local prison. They had these prisoners talk to us about what their lives were like in jail, and it really freaked everybody out. But it wasn't the idea of being locked up that scared me. It was the fact that the toilets in the cells are right out in the open. I have a huge issue when it comes to privacy. It's bad enough at school when you come back from the bathroom and everyone wants to know all the details. Psst. Psst. Did you poop? Good grief! That's what I call nosy. I've never actually broken the law before, but when I was little, I thought I did. They used to have this thing at my supermarket called the Cupcake Club, where they gave a free cupcake to everyone under 8 years old. I had a membership card and everything. Well, I kept taking a cupcake even after I turned 8, and every time I did, I thought I was going to get busted. Then this one time, an alarm went off at the exact moment I bit into a strawberry frosted cupcake with sprinkles. Ring! Looking back, I'm pretty